It is Monday the 17th of May 2021, and I'm about to try to send a little message to the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Association. They're having a board meeting tonight. It may be over, but I have a feeling it's still on. And I tried leaving phone messages earlier today. That's what all these written phone numbers about. I called a bunch of different numbers at the UUA. I was not able to get through to any of them. So what I'm going to do here is use my cell phone to send a Facebook comment on the UUA Board of Trustees meeting. So essentially there is this option here. So I've put a link to a blog post, and I've also linked to a YouTube video that records an attempt to reach them last week. So they can have a look at that and we'll see what happens. So we're just going to hit done here and post. And I've tagged it UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association. So hopefully they'll get this. Yeah, so that's board meeting. Okay, well, I don't see it posted, but nonetheless, I did send it. Your response is visible to the host and friends. Okay, that I presume means visible to my friends. So maybe it's visible on my Facebook. I can check that. Anyway, so it is 10:24 Eastern Time. The meeting started at 7:45 Eastern Time. And it says happening now, so should be still happening. So hopefully they got the message that they need to do something about the fact that they have been directly participating in the cover-up and denial of child sex abuse committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, to say nothing of Unitarian Universalist religious educators, but definitely Unitarian Universalist ministers. They've been aware for quite some time that the UUA Board of Trustees, the UUA administration, when Reverend Dr. Peter Morales was president of the UUA, falsely accused me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel in clergy sex abuse cover-up legal bullying that specifically sought to intimidate me into removing blog posts that told the readily verifiable truth about what the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney, Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors Defamation Lawyer Maitre Marc-Andre Coulombe, described as unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. Well, unfortunately, I was very, very, very careful not to post anything that was unfounded. Everything I posted was very truthful, very verifiable information, nothing unfounded about it. Even if I had posted unfounded stuff, it would not amount to the criminal act of blasphemous libel. So this was just a completely over-the-top, ridiculous, quite frankly insane effort by the UUA to intimidate me, scare me, threaten me with criminal prosecution for an archaic crime. I will add that up until Friday, June 1st of 2012, when I first received notification of that accusation in an email, that the Unitarian Universalist religious communities upheld a proud tradition of opposing blasphemy laws, and they ignominiously ended that centuries-old tradition by falsely, and I repeat falsely, accusing me of violating Canada's blasphemy law, as I said, in an effort to scare me into deleting, memory holding, whatever term you want to use, the Emerson Avenger blog post that told the truth about how Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell had lured teenage Tibetan refugees away from their families in India with promises of a better life in America, and proceeded to use one of them as a sex slave for years. I mean, he initially lured away one, but then there's reports that he lured away some others later. But so he initially lured away one when she was 16 years old, brought her back to Massachusetts. He was the minister for the Northborough and Westborough Unitarian Universalist congregations, and he used this girl as a sex slave essentially for quite a number of years, and then she finally broke away when she was 20 years old. So the UUA knows about this, and yet they tried to intimidate me into taking down the blog posts about this. But it gets worse than that. I mean, that's very bad. But the UUA Board of Trustees itself issued a so-called apology for clergy sexual misconduct at the 2014 General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association. The moderator of the UUA Board of Trustees, Jim Key, he inserted into the middle of his first moderator's report a so-called official apology for clergy sexual misconduct. Well, in addition to minimizing the extent and seriousness of clergy sexual misconduct in general, he completely denied any sexual abuse of children by Unitarian Universalist ministers. This was a brazen lie. His exact words, if I remember correctly, were, "There were no incidents of abuse of elders or children in my investigations." So he claimed to have personally investigated Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual misconduct, also known as clergy sexual abuse, and in his investigations he found no evidence of any sexual abuse of children, to say nothing of elders. The last time I checked, the ministers that engage in sexual misconduct, generally speaking, don't go after the old women in the congregation, to say nothing of the old men. They tend to go for younger members of the congregation. And unfortunately, there have been several cases of abuse of children by Unitarian Universalist ministers where Unitarian Universalist ministers were charged, tried, and convicted of quite serious sex crimes involving children. Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell is not the only one. I'm not going to name the others. I expect the UUA Board of Trustees to do so when they finally get around to acknowledging the truth, that they've literally lied to Unitarian Universalists about child sex abuse committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers in what I consider to be a worthless apology. Any apology that minimizes the extent and seriousness of the sin, if you want to use that term, or error, mistake being apologized for, and that's, believe me, using the terms error and mistake is pretty light. Because in some cases we're talking sex crimes. But that's it, is to minimize and not recognize as serious in things is one thing, but to brazenly lie specifically about the sexual abuse of children by Unitarian Universalist ministers is just beyond the pale. And they've known about this since 2014. I challenged them on that. I demanded that they correct the record, and they have not done so. When they falsely accused me of blasphemous libel, I demanded that they formally withdraw that false accusation, that they publicly apologize for that false accusation, and that they tell the truth about just how many Unitarian Universalist ministers, to say nothing of Unitarian Universalist clergy, to say nothing of Unitarian Universalist religious educators, also known as Sunday school teachers, they need to disclose the truth. How many are guilty of serious sex crimes against children, to say nothing of sex crimes against adults. There's no question that there's a good, I don't know how to say it, but there's definitely multiple cases of sexual abuse of children by Unitarian Universalist ministers, to say nothing of Sunday school teachers, religious educators, and yet they try to pretend, that my blog posts are unfounded and vicious. They try to pretend that there's been no sexual abuse of children committed by ministers in an apology. It's lies, pure lies. So that got sent, and I will be checking up on things. I may try other methods. I did send an email to them. In fact, the blog post that was sent to them contains the full text of the email, but they're so heavily blocking me that I can't be sure that they actually received that email. I didn't get any notification to the effect that it wasn't received, but it's entirely possible that they're blocking my emails and I'm not getting notification of that. So anyway, that's one of the reasons why I post these things publicly is regardless of whether they get them in their email inbox, they're posted publicly soon after I send them. And that was one of the reasons I was calling earlier today, because I wanted to inform them, well, that email, whether you received it or not, is now posted on the Emerson Avenger blog. I suggest you go read it and act upon what's written in it. So we'll see. I'm going to wrap this up, a bit long-winded already. I may record another video if I do something of some interest later tonight.